Evil Genius 2 lets you indulge in the dark fantasy of building a secret island lair just how you want it. But what's the best way to go about it? Let's explore 3 totally different approaches and see which one works out the best.
Good thing I'm the smart one around here.
Okay, very funny. Who's welded my locker shut? Guys, seriously, my yellow overalls are in there and I've already had 2 tardies from Maximilian this week. Oh, didn't see you there, viewers. I was just not getting bullied by low-level minions. Stop trying to give me a dead arm, I'm doing a VO here. It's a little known fact that all minions are absolute jerks. They might have quirky personality traits and cute mannerisms, but the fact is, they've applied for the job ad that said, wanted, someone to help me inflict massive evil. And for that, they should not be given a second thought when it comes to lair design. But that still leaves the possibilities pretty open when you first arrive on an island and drag those first tentative boxes out on the rock. What kind of design are you going for in there? One that will make things easier or look better? Or just somewhere to house as many murder machines as possible? In this video, Gareth, Ellen and I will shed some light on that by taking very different approaches to the same island lair. Who will win and who will end up in this video clearly bested by the intellect and architectural savoir-faire of the others? Let's find out.
Step 1. Tell us what you want, and the minions will do it.
Right, open plan then. The idea here is that walls are an absolute faux pas, and in their absence, one should create a freedom of movement and an airy spaciousness that smacks of an overambitious tech startup that will be selling off its beanbags and vintage arcade cabinets before the end of the financial year. I picked the lair with the biggest expanse of rock to be caved into and have at it. Rather than planning out exactly how the rooms will fit together, I find it's best to turn everywhere into one enormous corridor when you're going open plan, and then drag the rooms out on top of that. Now, obviously, the iffy element here is security. Both Gareth and Ellen are going for more traditional layouts in that they feature walls between the snooping investigators and their valuables. But I don't have that luxury. So instead I place my vault at the furthest possible point from the cover-up entrance and put the armory right next to it. Then I allow myself a couple of pillars to place guard posts in front of it so that when I hit the high alert button, these two come running over. And sure, just a couple of slippery floor traps there just for laughs. My prison is just off from the armory and vault too, and I like to think that gains me a little psychological advantage over any rogues. They'll clock these holding cells and they'll ask themselves, is it really worth it? Power generators are also catnip for invading world police, so I've set up plenty of fire extinguishers nearby for when the fires inevitably break out, and added a few more slippery floors to stop any uncovered agents in their tracks. Elsewhere, it's a surprisingly cozy space now considering how vast and empty the mountain is. Look at this little chill out zone for minions with nothing on at the moment. And while the sleeping arrangements do lack some privacy, sure, not to mention sound insulation, I haven't heard a word of complaint from them since randomly executing a few of them. Zalika's sanctum isn't strictly inner here.
Rest is always part of my genius.
So I've given her a screen to preserve her mystique from passing minions. Plus, from her throne, she can watch mercenaries being trained up, and I think she'd like that. Investigators can certainly get inside easily enough, and while there's technically nothing to stop them photographing or taking down our entire operation, my guards are on the case pretty quickly with no walls in their way. All in all, a surprisingly effective approach. But let's see what Gareth can do with his space.
Constant construction.
Well, thanks for making it so easy for me to upstage you, Phil, because I will see your ugly gymnasium filled with haphazard squares of rooms and raise you a real layout, one that's purpose-built to make life as difficult as possible for agents. I take the same space as Phil, and rather than let my actual base of operations sprawl out everywhere, I create a 3-way corridor system. It presents any incoming investigators with a choice, A, B, or C. Well, I say choice, the first one on the scene doesn't really get to choose since they're forced along by these fans. I force them into picking A winding spiral corridor full of high security laser doors and paywalls that take absolute ages to get past, all ultimately leading to, well, absolutely nothing. A room with a water fountain and a little chair. Oh, and a fake safe if any rogues manage to actually make it this far. Meanwhile, those who choose Corridor B will get a much easier time, until they get through the door, hit the laser disco, and are forced to dance in front of a team of guards sitting in wait for them in the giant prison room. That's it, work it. Get your exercise in while you can, because pretty soon your dancing space is going to be severely restricted. Which leaves Corridor C. Any agents who choose this path will have selected the route into my actual lair, where I've squashed all of the important rooms into a tiny corner, and where, like Phil, my goals lies out in the open, albeit under the watchful eye of a few guards. Thing is, they're never actually going to see that because this corridor's filled with laser walls. Checkmate FOJ. Beat that, Ellen.
Why do people always need to change things, You young people with your salted caramel and your smashed avocado. You know, back in my day, we'd build our lairs by candlelight with our bare hands, stopping only for a modest lunch of bread and hard cheese, and my God, did we love it. There were no Lair Builder 5000s, oh no, just the two God-given Lair Builders at the end of your arms. Okay, I'll admit I'm only 26, but the point still stands. Sometimes the old-fashioned way is the best. And I know what you're thinking. Ellen, why are you choosing such an antiquated approach to your lair building? Surely you'd prefer a lair that's as young and hip as you are, and leave the traditional option to someone like Phil, who is much, 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 much older than you. And to that I say, you're right, Phil is old, but he doesn't have an appreciation for the classics quite like I do. My lair is the Sergeant Pepper of heinous hideouts, copied and recreated 100 times over, but for a very good reason. My corridors are functional, my space is well utilised, my room arrangement is ruthlessly efficient. Take the break room for example, positioned at the very back of the lair, so if any layabout minion wants to take 5, they'll have to take a walk of shame past every other part of the lair. Fancy a quick sit down, maybe a tea and some biscuits, do you, pal? Sure, go ahead, but just know that every one of your hard-working colleagues can see you as you walk past. Still fancy a bourbon after you've walked past a room of scientists slowly shaking their heads? Didn't think so. I've also saved money on traps by building a vault at the end of a labyrinthine series of corridors. Forget shelling out for a laser disco or some shark-infested waters. I plan to fend off the forces of justice through a combination of confusion and making them feel slightly winded. I'm not adverse to a punching bag or two, of course. I'm just not planning on throwing money away, unlike some people. Gareth, sorry, something in my throat there.
As much as I love to flex on my long-suffering colleagues and declare myself the outright winner, Gareth did have some pretty crafty tricks up his sleeve, and Ellen's rigid adherence to the status quo can only be admired. So, who won? Settle it for us in the comments, and please give us your own lair building hacks and pro tips down there too. The game's still new and we're all just in the figuring it out stage, so there's a lot left to learn. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Leaving us a thumbs up would make our day. And if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so now and hitting the bell, ding ding, for more of our nonsense as soon as we drop it. We'll catch you next time.